All right, this is the TBK podcast. Today, you'll be speaking with myself, Richard, Tunde, and David. It's an immediate fight reaction to Anthony Joshua stopping Kubrat Pulev in 9 rounds. Tunde, what did you think?
I thought it was, just sort of like reflecting on the fight the morning after. Yesterday I was gassed. I was really happy with his performance. He did what he had to do. I like the fact that he's been working on his discipline. So there was a couple of moments in the fight, I think in the third round, when I know he wanted to jump on man properly, but he sort of stepped back. He hadn't cooked him properly yet, and he just stuck behind the jab, just did what he had to do. And when he found an opening again, he just laced him with the uppercuts, and that was it. Man was done. He was finished. He had head movement, good lateral movement, which he didn't have before in his previous fight. So, that bodes well for his future fights. His leg work was great. He was just moving in and out. Pulev didn't really have any sort of really good moments. He had a couple of times where he sort of caught AJ clean, but it didn't really bother AJ. I think all round, like I said yesterday, I gave him an 8. I'll still stick with that.
8's quite high.
8 is quite high, but at the end of the day, you can only beat what's put in front of you. Pulev is somebody who, he's not elite, but he's there and thereabouts. He's a solid fighter, very good amateur background. He's only been beaten once before, by Klitschko. And he had Klitschko in trouble I think it was in the first round, I believe. So he's not a shoddy fighter. He's got some really good fundamentals to him. So, AJ did the job on him, and he told him what he would do, and he did it. I've got no complaints. And the thing is, it's easy for people to say, well, he could have done this, he could have done that. I would like to see them do that. Understand? So, and I've said this before. This is somebody who's been fast tracked into boxing. He's only been in boxing 11 years as amateur and professional. This is somebody who hasn't even laced up. He was 18, 19 when he laced up a pair of gloves for the first time. He's been world champion for 4 years, apart from that 6-month period where he got beat and he had to fight Ruiz again. He's been fast tracked. He was in his 16th fight when he got the IBF, right? He had no business being in that fight. So he's done exceptionally well for where he is.
Inexperienced fighter.
He's just he's done very, very well. So for me, I think 8 is a fair assessment of the fight. I've got no complaints. He did really well.
He did. Does this change your perspective on how the Fury Joshua fight goes?
No, because I always thought that AJ would have a good chance with Fury. I still believe that Fury is somebody who's been underrated for a long time. That didn't change until the second Chisora fight, where people start to think, there's a little bit about this man. And then that was solidified when he beat Klitschko. Although that was a scrappy affair and whatnot, he did what he had to do. Now, when he just dismantled Deontay Wilder, in the first fight, he beat him clean, despite getting knocked down. Then in the second fight, he just destroyed the man. So now everybody's got him up there as this is the ideal heavyweight fighter. Nobody can beat him, which is a nonsense. I think AJ, the difference between AJ and Deontay is that AJ's got much better fundamentals. He's clearly a better boxer. His power is more bludgeoning than just, like a one-punch knockout power that Deontay has. and he's got much better movement. He's got an excellent jab if he chooses to use it. So these are the sort of things that I believe can trouble Fury. Fury can get knocked down. He can get knocked down. The only thing with Fury is that he has got incredible stamina for somebody of his size. He's got excellent footwork. He's got excellent movement. He's got really good lateral movement. So those are the sort of things that could trouble AJ, plus the jab that Fury has. So it's I think it's more 50-50 for me. Anybody can win that fight, to be honest.
Yeah, brilliant. David, what's your viewpoint on the fight, and have you managed to look at any feedback online and what the general consensus is?
Yeah, so my viewpoint on the fight is I was hoping that AJ was going to step into the ring and show us something we hadn't seen before, because you know, even I always question the second Ruiz fight in that his defense has always worried me, because he balls up, he puts his hands up rather than slip, and I was hoping that he was going to show that he could slip a punch, pull counter, and really just work off of a solid 1-2 via the jab and a power punch. He ticked all of those boxes for me yesterday.
Brilliant.
Emphatically. Now, you know, whether there's a preference towards him or not, I don't think is the point, in the sense of he brought to the table something that shows that fight on fight, he's developing. I also feel pretty strongly about the fact that right now he showed a lot of people why he gets talked so much smack about, because not only has he got the humility, the star appeal, the knockout ratio, but now he's showing. And I don't think we've necessarily seen enough boxing skill. We've seen skill, but I don't think we've seen it in the sense of
not this level.
You know, nah, definitely not. I do feel that some of the feedback I've seen online, I'm not impressed by it, because, you know, I was having this conversation yesterday, fun enough, with Tunde, and you look at the PBC, Lennox Lewis is in there, company man. You look at the Zone, you got Brian Kelly, you got Sergio Mora, company men. You go to Top Rank or ESPN, you got Andre Ward and Tim Bradley, company men. Do you know what I mean?
That's so for me. To ask you, did you see the Andre Ward and Tim Bradley response?
Oh, I saw it, and I mean, with Tim Bradley, I do think, if I'm honest with you, I think Tim Bradley talks a lot of rubbish for the most part. But what I will say about Tim Bradley is, you can clearly see his enthusiasm for the sport. Yeah. It always comes through. Even if he's got an agenda, it always comes through. He can't help talking about what he likes to see and what he likes from a fighter. I think with Andre Ward, you know, people have got to always kind of question what Andre Ward has to say about Joshua, because at one stage after he beat Kovalev, he was like, well, there's no reason why he can't go and fight for the heavyweight title and knock out Anthony Joshua. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So
it seems like there's a bit of an issue between them two, doesn't it?
Well, an issue, I'd say more of an agenda on Ward's part anyway. You know, I don't know if I go as far as say there's an issue. I think Ward's got the issue, because Joshua's... Just to
be clear for the audience, can we repeat Andre Ward's opinion on the fight? What did he say about Joshua yesterday?
Well, he didn't feel that Joshua did what was it he said again? That he didn't feel, if one of you can remember this a bit clearer than I can, feel free to jump in though.
He did say that he didn't feel that Joshua was going to beat Fury, didn't he? That was the main crux of what he was saying, that Joshua as he is has no chance.
The thing is, you know, I think Andre Ward being more fleet-footed, more of a fighter than a puncher, he will probably always support fighters that are like that. And in the heavyweight division, despite Wilder getting stopped, Fury's more of a fighter than puncher. And And I think Andre Ward will always kind of lean towards that kind of person. Do you know what I mean? Like he will always lean towards that style of fighter a bit more than he would, the bludgeoning knockout merchant. But the thing that Tunde touched on, which we can't really escape or deny, is for someone who's not got the extensive boxing pedigree in terms of amateur and professional, and someone who's still learning on the job, I think Joshua's progress has been nothing short of remarkable.
Yeah,
you got to thank Matchroom, you got to thank Fast Car, like Mr. Hearn, because he's matched him up quite well. But the thing for me that I always kind of come back to is he's never been shy of taking a risk.
Yeah.
People can talk about how old Klitschko was when he knocked Klitschko out, but at the end of the day, he got in there with him.
Yeah.
Not everyone chose to do that.
That's right.
Not everyone did. Not everyone did that. He fought the people that he had to fight. And sorry if I'm going off on a tangent, but when we look at the duck talk and all this kind of foolishness, he's the only person that's been out there collecting belts.
Yeah.
Everyone else, like Wilder never had one unification fight. All them years he was champion for. Fury has never had to, he's never defended his belts.
Yeah.
Like, obviously we know he's got his demons that he's got to fight, but Joshua's been the only guy out there having unification bouts.
Mm-hmm.
So, when I hear some of the narratives that are put towards him, I can't help but question the agenda attached to it all. Especially now, it's all of the people that have had stuff to say regarding him and Wilder. No one's come out and questioned what Wilder said about the fact that he fought Fury instead of Joshua. Although prior to that, he never got an offer, apparently, right?
Yeah, you're right.
Right. So when I hear certain things, I kind of take it with a pinch of salt, and I have to look beneath the surface on it, because there clearly is a lot of agendas. Everyone's got their agenda and what have you, but there clearly are a lot of agendas toward Joshua, because I guess, in many ways, he's multi-dimensional. He's like not even a triple threat, like a quadruple threat. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like the guy models, the guy's got flipping literally every woman's heart in this bloody country, in half the world furthermore. Yeah. And like yesterday, I nearly had to clap my wife because she was talking some stupid smack. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah. He fights, and he's got humility.
Yeah.
And furthermore, he's a quintuple threat, because not only has he's got humility, but when he gets nearer to fight time he always shows that edge that used to get him in trouble with the police. You see it teetering on the brink every single time. And for me, it's like you look at it in terms of everything, how he's been marketed, how he speaks, the sound. I do think he's a bit of a soundbite king. But he's got everything going for him, and I think that is the reason why he gets so much stick, because he's literally come out of nowhere, won the Olympics, and then chosen well in terms of his promotional outfit, and now the guy he's the face of heavyweight boxing, and he has been
for quite a while,
ever since he beat Charles Martin. Yeah,
I feel as though Joshua has upset the All Eyes Massa crowd with some of his statements. But that was a large percentage of Anthony Joshua's fan base, if we're honest. The football hooligans who love to go out and get drunk and just chant random nonsense, a lot of them were following Joshua. And they're okay with supporting a fighter like Joshua, in so long as he has no opinion, particularly opinion that doesn't correlate with theirs. So when Joshua came out and showed that he wasn't just a big robot, like they like to think of him, as he has his own opinions, whether his own or someone else's, he has viewpoints that he wanted to share. That changed the perspective on him. But with regards to in-the-ring accomplishments, there isn't a fighter at heavyweight, in my opinion, that can compete with him at the moment. I think that he's forced everyone. If you look at Fury's resume, it's not weak. He has a decent resume, but it doesn't compare to Joshua's. So Hammer and Chisora twice, in fact, and then Vlad and Wilder. It makes for a decent resume, but Joshua actually has a really deep resume. Something that you touched on earlier on was how fast he's been taken through his career. He's been fast tracked, and which is, is true. He started boxing at 19, is it?
Yeah, yeah.
I think people speak about how fast Lomachenko competed for titles, but the reality of it is Joshua has been fast tracked in his career, even more so than Lomachenko, because Lomachenko turned pro in his 20s, didn't he? In his late 20s, and he'd been fighting.
Late 20s, yeah.
Yeah, he'd been fighting for quite a while already. He had extensive amateur experience, and he fought all the best. He saw every style. Joshua was, a relative novice, and he'd been entered into major tournaments because he is an athlete in a similar manner to Deontay Wilder. Wilder also started late, but he never learnt the fundamentals. He had success because he's an elite athlete. Deontay Wilder, he's got the range. He's 6'7". He's got explosive power, and that's what's given him some success. But he's never had the fundamentals. The difference between him and Joshua is Joshua's also an elite athlete, but he has spent time practicing and working on the fundamentals as well, which is what makes him a good boxer. The fight yesterday, I think, was a really good performance from Joshua. He showed a little bit of everything. He showed that he can box and move. He showed he still has that stoppage power when he wants to use it. He was a little bit more confident when it came to taking shots because he did look really apprehensive in the second Ruiz fight. But I think that's kind of understandable. If you've been stopped brutally and you've been knocked down so many times, it's only sensible that you'd be apprehensive when you come to rematch that person. In this fight, he still grabbed and held a lot when Pulev tried to put his punches together. But generally, he looked a lot calmer and more relaxed in that situation. I think that he can beat Fury in the future, but I think it would be better if he fought Usyk first. Another master boxer, but someone who has the right dimensions for Joshua to dominate. I think that will work as a really good learning fight for him, and that will help him prepare for some of the tricks that Fury might try to pull when they fight one another.
Yeah, agree. I completely agree with that. Completely agree with that. I think, if you look at the movement that Joshua showed yesterday, he's kicked on from the second Ruiz fight. Well, if you think about it, actually, the Parker fight was like a jab and move fight anyway. Only thing is, again, like I said before, his defense, rather than slipping, he was just putting his hands up and just trying to work his way out of it. Whereas yesterday he moved, and it takes a lot less energy if you just slip it just to sidestep. And I'm so glad that he was displaying that in front of Floyd. Yeah. As well, and it almost, the way they greet each other at the end of the fight and what was said, it almost seems as though he's been he sounds like he's almost been consulted. Yeah, he's almost been consulted by Floyd. You know what I mean, in certain things, and I hear what you're saying about the Fury situation. I know Tunde has displayed his feelings as well. I do think the Usyk fight is very important in terms of how he ends up dealing with Fury. Yeah. But in all honesty, I don't really want to see the Usyk fight before the Fury fight. Right. Because to say it plain, I'm not interested in the Usyk fight. I really think because he deserves the opportunity to be the undisputed world champion. He's been patient. Yeah. He's been slandered. Mm-hmm. He had we've never seen this. He had two fighters from two separate promotional outfits. Well, three if you include Queensbury and Top Rank for Fury. He had two fighters from a combined three promotional outfits literally come together to rubbish his name. Yeah. Yeah, which is in quite poor taste for me. It is. Yeah. And he's had. Say that again, Rich. It's been completely poor taste. It's an entertainment sport, so they should be making the fights and not thinking of ways to, freeze out fighters. It doesn't make any sense, particularly when he's the largest draw out of all of them, anyway. Yeah, but that again, that was part of the reason why he got frozen out the way he did, is because they were hoping that doing that was going to get them on a financial par with him. They'll never be on a financial par with him. And you know, if you think about it, again, this is a discussion that myself and Tunde have had over the years. Wilder came to England, commentated on the fight with Vlad and AJ, but was calling out Tony Bellew.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You had an opportunity right there and then to say, you know what, I've got a WBC belt. You've just added the WBA to your IBF. Yeah. We've now got to try and get Parker between either of us and have a unification and have an undisputed fight. Yeah. But instead he was chasing the money because he knew that Tony Bellew, as a matchroom fighter at the time, was going to provide the financial breakthrough that he needed.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, and then let's not forget, I mean, I'm sure it's still doing the rounds on YouTube right now, the video or the audio clip of Fury mentioning Anthony Joshua whilst he was still an amateur because he got 7 belts knocked out of him by AJ.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So, you know, when the casuals particularly talk the Fury Armada stuff on AJ, I don't mean to dismiss it, but at the same time, it's like, well, you know, unless you know what I know or what people who are in the fight game know, I don't want to hear what you got to say because it's casual. It's casual nonsense. It's verbal diarrhea.
Yeah.
You understand? But AJ has now earned that fight. He's more than earned the fight. And what we don't want to see is what we saw with Wilder, which is Fury holding the belt hostage, taking on subpar opposition to avoid the fight, and then using this person, whoever it is that he fights, to discredit AJ. Because you got Andre Ward. Sorry to go back to this now. Sorry, Tunde. I know what you guys have got to speak, but you know, yeah. You've got Andre Ward criticizing Anthony Joshua for knocking out Kubrat Pulev, who has not been knocked out since Vladimir Klitschko beat him.
Yeah. Yet
still, there's not one criticism of Fury for fighting Tom Schwartz and Otto Wallin. Otto Wallin, who he just about beat as well.
Yeah, and Francesco Pianetta.
And we won't talk about Francesco Pianetta. We don't. Yeah, we don't need to talk about Francesco Pianetta, right? Because, but what we need to do is highlight the fact that this guy, who was arguably P4P number 1 once Floyd retired, even though he didn't fight for too much longer, right? This is the guy who knows the game in and out, who was with a Hall of Fame trainer from the time that he was a youngster, yeah, and. You know, without a shadow of a doubt, had one of the best skill sets in the game that kind of went under the radar because he wasn't as brash and as outspoken as Floyd, so he never quite had the fanfare.
Yeah.
You're talking about a man who knows the game inside out. But you're going to criticize the guy who doesn't have the extensive experience, who doesn't have the extensive knowledge, or in the ring or fight knowledge. Yeah. And you're going to praise the guy who punched his way out of his mother's womb.
Yeah, there's an obvious bias. There's obviously there's been a bit of a back and forth because Joshua mentioned some of Ward's criticisms recently. You spoke about the earlier criticisms where Ward said he thinks he could move up to heavy and beat Joshua, and there was also when he spoke about Joshua being on social media a bit too much. Which is funny. These two are quite similar in age. There's not a huge. It's almost like he's trying to speak down to him, as you would, to your junior. I think it's quite disrespectful. Despite Andre Ward being a pound-for-pound fighter in his career, I don't know that he necessarily has accomplished. He's a 2-weight world champion. Has he accomplished a dramatically large amount more than Anthony Joshua? I don't think he has, despite all of his skill. So.
No way.
I don't think he's in any position to really be criticising the way Joshua is performing when he's a 2-time world champion, he's an Olympic gold medalist, and he has a really strong resume. I think it's clear that he either wants to fight or, he's a bit like Larry Holmes. It happens with a lot of former greats. They become quite bitter when they retire and they're very overly critical of the current generation of fighters. And that's what I see with Andre Ward.
It's yeah, because I didn't listen to what you said yesterday. I can't deal with all that sort of commentary. It's just it does my head in. And going back to what David was saying in regards to casuals, the way I look at casuals is the way I look at a child when you ask them what's 2 + 2 and they say 25,000. That's how I view their commentaries. It's just a nonsense. It's like I don't. No, I can't do it. It's like you'll speak to somebody just talking gibberish, and he won't. I don't listen to it. So, it's. I think, in terms of going back to what you were saying, Rich, about the sort of backlash that Joshua has been having. It's like you said, a lot of his fan base a lot of them are casual, so they've been, they probably thought he's another Frank Bruno, second coming of Frank Bruno, and let's get behind him. He's gonna be one of us. Da 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 da. And it's like, and in this country especially, it's like you can be good but not too good. Yeah, you can be great but not too great, and that's it. And especially when you're like, an ethnic minority, you're black and that, then there's always that sort of questions like, you can be black but not too black. Yeah, you can be out there and a bit outspoken but not too outspoken where they start to get a bit uncomfortable. So that BLM rally that he took part in, that's when they just started going nuts. Like, not even before that, when he put up a post of him in a mosque. I think he was in Dubai? Yeah, he was. Right? And the vitriol that, like, some of these people saying, I will never support him again. He's a terrorist. All of this stuff about, There
was the thing with Chambers as well. That was, I can understand why some of them were offended, but there's a collection of things now. You said, what was it? The superior black, embarrassment to the superior black race, which is going to cause upset. But that should have been kept.
I don't think he said
that should have been kept between fighters. That was behind the scenes. It seemed to be a personal problem between them, and Chambers knew exactly what he was doing, leaking that to a public platform.
Yeah.
With that, I'm a bit dubious about.
You don't think it was real?
I don't think it was real. I really don't. It's just, the thing is, like, and a lot of people will say things for clout, and they'll say whatever, and like anybody that's good at Photoshop can just doctor certain bits and pieces. I don't know for certain whether that was the case or not, but it's just a bit too convenient. You know what I'm saying? Like, so stuff like that is nuts. And when you're in the public eye like that, are you really going to say something like that? Especially when, like, everything is evidence. You could just screenshot stuff. Are you really going to say that when the majority of your fan base are?
Yeah, you're right.
Why?
Right.
And this is somebody who is media savvy. Why would you do that?
And if you
like, it's
no, carry on. I'll go in after.
No, if you're someone that's been media trained, and I know a lot of the matchroom fighters are, right? Especially when you get to a certain level of scrutiny, like, you're told these are some of the things that you should not be doing. Don't put anything out there that is likely to, enrage your fan base, especially where it pertains to race, to gender. Like, you won't do it unless you're really stupid. That's not something you're going to do. So I'm really sort of dubious about that whole situation. The BLM rally, again, I think I was reading somebody else's speech. Me and David were talking about that before. Yeah. So, and then these people they were just enraged. And I saw in a post, I think it was a Sky Sports post where they were just no, actually, it was on Facebook, and somebody put up a post saying, you know, if you want AJ to win, remember this, and they put up the screenshot of him at the rally. Remember what he said. Do not support him. And I'm just, it just goes back to what I was saying earlier about they want you to, you know, you can succeed, but not to, you know, you can't have too much success because then they'll just turn on you. And that's what we've seen. If he, you know, he fights Fury, when that fight is made, you watch how many of them people will be like Fury just because he's, you know, he's white. I want him to beat this black. That's what's going to happen, and then there'll be near riots if AJ beats Fury. You'll see.
Right, guys, this is fantastic. It's time for us to wrap up though. So it's been Richard, Tunde, and Dave on the TBK podcast.